Welcome to DNF Podcast, where we break down everyday challenges through the lens of our favorite pop culture moments. I'm Fernanda, joined by my amazing co hosts, Diego and Nina. And today we're tackling something we've all faced at some point job interviews.
That's right. Interviews can feel like one of life's biggest tests. Stressful, exciting, and sometimes a bit overwhelming. But understanding what works and what doesn't can make a huge difference.
And to help with that, we're looking at some scenes from classic movies and TV interviews, analyzing what made them effective or not. From The Devil Wears Prada to The Office, we'll highlight the do's and don'ts of interviewing. Let's jump in.
Let's start with The Devil Wears Prada. This scene is a perfect example of a high stakes interview. Andy is going for a role at Runaway at a top fashion magazine, but she's far from qualified in terms of industry experience. Miranda Presley, her potential boss, is intimidating and dismissive from the start.
Yes, and you can feel the tension. What really stands out me here is how Andy handles that intense pressure. She is clearly nervous but keeps her
Her composure.
Yes, that was the
Yes,
word.
I saw that too. I identify that too.
Yes, that was the word I was thinking about.
Yes.
And moving on, talking about Miranda, I think that the attitude of Miranda,
Yeah.
and it shows that staying calm even when the interviewer is intimidating can actually work in your favor.
Yes, yes, Miranda Presley had a really
But
scary
yes,
attitude. Yeah.
yes.
Absolutely. Andy might not have the background Miranda is looking for, but she's adaptable, which Miranda picks up on. This scene teaches us that even if you're not perfectly qualified on paper, your ability to adapt and keep a level head can be just as important.
Yeah, you are so right
I
Yes.
know, I
saying
know.
that. Okay, so here's our first big takeaway. Don't let nerves get the best of you. That's a fact. Stay
Okay.
composed and try to show you're willing to learn. Sometimes that's more valuable than a specific experience.
Yes.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's right. Next up is the scene from Suits. Remember?
Yeah, I love
Yes.
suits. Yes.
Me too. And also,
Harvey is really handsome.
yes,
Yes,
and
he is.
that was what I'm thinking about because Suits with Mike Rose and Harvey Specter. So, in my opinion, these ones interesting. This one is interesting because Mike lacks traditional qualification. He's not actually a lawyer, but Harvey, his interview seems or sees something unique in him. Mike's quick thinking, confidence, and unconventional background actually end up working in his favor.
Exactly. Harvey's testing him, and Mike's response to that challenge is impressive. In this scene, they show us that confidence in your ability and a bit of quick thinking can go a long way. You may not tick every box on the job description, but if you show that you're resourceful and confident, that can be just as compelling.
And it also illustrates how important it is to own your unique strengths. Harvey gives Mike a hard time, like a
A
really
really
hard
hard
time,
time.
but Mike doesn't back down, and that boldness actually impresses Harvey. That's why he gave him the job.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so another takeaway: confidence and problem solving skills are powerful assets. Even if you're not like the typical candidate, those qualities can help you stand out.
Totally.
Yes.
Yes.
And all right, let's move on to the intern. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Let's go.
I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in.
Okay. So, and let's talk about Robert De Niro's character, Ben, who submits a video cover letter. This one, this one's great because, well, in my opinion, because it's so different from the others. We get to see Ben's humility ingenious or genu.
Genuine.
Yes, that was the word.
Yes.
And
Enthusiasm?
Yes.
enthusiasm.
Okay.
Yes,
Mm-hmm,
Diego.
mm-hmm.
From the for the role.
It's like we're connected in mind.
Yes.
You know, like
Absolutely.
we
You are
say
thinking
we
the
finish
word.
Yes.
each other sentences.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, he's older, experienced professional applying to intern at a startup, which is very unusual. But this approach in the video is so humble and relatable that he immediately wins the team over. It's a perfect example of how enthusiasm and humility, like you said,
Mhm.
can shine through, no matter your age or your experience level.
Exactly.
Yes, I love that.
Exactly. And Ben might seem overqualified. That also can happen that you
Yes.
are overqualified for the job, and but he uses that to his advantage. He's charming and genuine and doesn't pretend to be something he's not, and that's refreshing. A big takeaway here is that sometimes your attitude and positivity can make you stand out more than you resume.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And next, we have one of my favorites movies, The Pursuit of Happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Oh, that's a
That's a
That
very
very good
sad
movie.
yes,
movie.
I
I
cry a
cried
lot.
a lot.
Yes,
Yes.
and that's with Will Smith character. In this case, it will be Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Chris is the name of the character, and what? And this is such a powerful scene. He is underdressed. He doesn't have a resume, and he is a struggling personality. But his resilience and honesty are what really shine in this movie, in my opinion. I don't know
Yes.
what you think.
Totally.
You're totally right.
This scene reminds me that life isn't always neat and perfect. Chris is honest about his struggles and that vulnerability actually works in his favor. His resilience and determination leave an impression on the interviewers, even though he doesn't meet the usual criteria.
Mhm.
This is a good example of how honesty can actually be a strength. Sometimes sharing your journey, even if it's not ideal, can make you memorable and relatable. So, takeaway here, don't be afraid to be honest and show resilience. It might be what makes you stand out.
Now, let's take a lighter look with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. In this scene, Jake Peralta interviews for a new present role, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the scene. And it's casual, humorous, and completely different from a corporate setting. This one shows this one shows how sometimes personality and humor can be as important as experience.
Right, Jake's humor and charm fit perfectly with the precinct's culture. It shows that interviews aren't just about skills, they're also about cultural fit. If you can show that your personality aligns with the team's vibes, that's a big plus for you.
Yes.
Yes, I'm
I'm
agree with
agree.
that. I
Uh-huh,
agree
and
with
that's
that. Yes.
a big plus.
So takeaway here, be yourself and read the room. If humor or personality is welcome, don't be afraid to show it. Fitting in with the team can sometimes be as valuable as any other skill.
And last but not least, we have The Office. The Office,
I
yes.
love The
Yes, I love The
Office.
Yes.
It's a
Office.
very funny show.
Very awkward and funny.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
And exactly in these shows in The Office, the interviews, they are like unique, you
Unique,
know,
very unique.
Yeah,
unique.
Michael, it's very unique
Yes.
Yes.
himself.
And they often awkward
Yes.
the interviews, and
Mhm.
it's a good reminder of what not to do on the
True.
interviews.
Definitely. The interviewers here often lack the professionalism,
Mhm.
sometimes
Yeah.
Michael,
Yes.
and the
More often.
candidates, sometimes more often they're not,
Mhm.
overshare or say. They say inappropriate things. Sometimes it's funny, but it also shows how interviews can go wrong when there's a lack of professionalism on both sides.
Absolutely. So here's the takeaway. Stay professional and avoid oversharing. Humor is great when it's fitting, but being too casual or unprofessional can really hurt your chances. And that's
Yes.
really true. Even if you cope with humor, like that could be
Mm,
dangerous too. If you're
Mhm.
nervous and you start like telling jokes too hard,
Very
like
yes.
inappropriate jokes
yeah,
sometimes,
Like The Office.
like
like
The
The
Office,
Office.
exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, so all right, we have covered some great examples. So let's discuss what we think are the top qualities that make or break an interview.
Yes, some key insights.
Yes.
Mhm. And for me, I think authenticity is key. All these scenes shows us that when candidates are true to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
whether there is honest about their struggle, like Chris in the movie of The Pursuit of Happiness,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
or adaptable like Andy, it resonated with that interviewer.
Definitely. I'll add that showing confidence without being arrogant is important, just like we see with Mike Ross in Suits. Confidence can be persuasive, but humility is just as important.
I totally agree. And resilience too. Whether you're coming from a place of strength, like Benny the intern, or facing challenges like Chris Gardner, showing resilience and positivity can really make you memorable.
Yes, and finally, cultural fit. Humor or personality, like in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, can make a difference when it's the right setting. Knowing how to read the room and show your true personality, if it's appropriate, can really set you apart.
Okay, I think we should list some tips that the listeners can use in case they are going into a interview soon or maybe later in their life.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's wrap this up with the top tips for nailing your next interview.
Okay. I must say, and we said that like many times before, but I think being authentic and true to yourself is your best asset. Because if you lie in a job
Mm-hmm.
interview, like sooner or later they're gonna realize that you
Yes,
lied.
Yes.
they can see
And
right through you.
yes, and that can cause you many more problems than if you were completely honest on the interview and they already knew what they were getting into
Yes.
at the time of like giving you the job. So if
True.
you lie and then they realize you lied, it's
Mm-hmm.
more likely to have problems with your bosses or maybe even get fired, you know?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's a risk that you can take because
No.
if you need the job, like if you have to pay, I don't know, whatever you have to pay with your responsibilities, and then you get fired for lying, that will be really problematic. And if you wanna get another job later, and they call
Your
Your previous
previous.
your
job.
previous job
Yes.
True.
and boss, they're gonna tell you lie.
Yes.
So your chances of getting the other job are get lower.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
totally.
I'm totally agree. And for me, and I think show confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean show confidence but stay like humble, you know?
Yeah,
Right.
you have to
Like
be
in a
very
balance.
humble. Yes.
Yes.
This apply when you are over qualified.
Yes.
Like being
Yes.
humble actually works if you're
Yes.
overqualified.
That's right. And I think we should also add resilience and a positive attitude because if you can show that you're a very resilient person, when you are working and there's a problem at the
Yes.
workplace,
Mm-hmm.
they can count on you and they can count that you are going to be able to make it through. And positive, well, you will also always want someone to be positive on the
Yes.
work environment.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It can be stressful sometimes.
Yeah, and you also become a valuable like person in the job,
Yes.
Mm.
so people can rely on you, and
Yes.
that also um assegurates that you have the job.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one's gonna fire you. And don't forget to read the room, guys. Personality matters too.
Yes.
Yes.
Of
It
course,
does.
if you are in a room full of your bosses, you're not gonna crack jokes.
Right.
But
No.
if you're with your
Coworkers.
coworkers, of course you can say some jokes and like make the everything like less stressful. But you have to read the
True.
room.
Yes. And I think that that's all for today. We hope these scenes gave you some useful insight
Mm-hmm.
into the do's and don'ts on interview when the interviewers in
And everything
and
related to
everything.
interviews.
Yes.
Yes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to, well, not subscribe or share it because this is the last time we're going to be doing this.
Yes.
But if anyone you know is preparing for an interview, then don't forget to send them this podcast so they can have some tips and tricks.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Remember, the right interview is about finding a mutual fit. We'll see you next time on DNF.
DNF. Woo!
Woo!
Bye.
Thank you everyone for your attention.
Yes,
And remember,
Thank you so
you
much.
are capable.
you're